Picture this. You're caught in a heated argument with a friend, a colleague, or maybe even a stranger. Emotions are running high, words are flying, and you can feel your blood pressure rising by the second. We've all been there, right? Conflict is an inevitable part of the human experience, but what if I told you that ancient wisdom could help you navigate these tricky situations with grace and ease? Enter Stoicism, a philosophy that has stood the test of time for over 2,000 years. Born in ancient Greece and popularized in Rome, Stoicism has guided some of history's greatest minds through the ups and downs of life. But what does a bunch of old Greek and Roman guys have to do with your modern-day struggles? As it turns out, everything. You see, the Stoics were masters of the art of living. They understood that true happiness and peace come from within, not from external circumstances. And when it comes to dealing with difficult people and situations, they had a treasure trove of practical advice that is just as relevant today as it was back then. In this video, we'll be diving deep into the Stoic playbook and exploring 8 powerful tips for solving problems with people. From learning how to care less about others' opinions to embracing love in action, these timeless principles will help you become a master of your own emotions and relationships. But don't just take my word for it. Get ready for a journey filled with fascinating stories, thought-provoking insights, and practical strategies you can start using right away. By the end of this video, you'll have a newfound appreciation for the wisdom of the ancients and a toolkit for handling even the toughest interpersonal challenges. So, are you ready to discover the secrets of the Stoics? Buckle up and let's get started. 1. Care less about people's opinions. Imagine you're scrolling through your social media feed and you come across a post that really resonates with you. You decide to share it, but then the doubts start creeping in. What if people think it's stupid? What if they judge you for it? Before you know it, you've deleted the post and spent the next hour overthinking what everyone else might have thought. Sound familiar? This is where the Stoics come in, particularly the wise words of Marcus Aurelius. In his famous work, Meditations, he writes, "I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others." Let that sink in for a moment. We all have an inherent sense of self-love, but we often prioritize the opinions of others over our own. But why? Why do we give so much power to external validation? The Stoics believed that true happiness and fulfillment come from within, from living a life of virtue and integrity. They understood that other people's opinions are fickle and often based on their own biases and insecurities. So why base our self-worth on something so unreliable? Now, I know what you might be thinking. But what about when I'm at work or in social situations? I can't just ignore what everyone thinks of me. And you're right, to an extent. We all need to be mindful of how our actions impact others and maintain a certain level of social decorum. But here's the thing. There's a difference between being considerate and being a people-pleaser. When we constantly mold ourselves to fit others' expectations, we lose touch with our own authenticity and values. We become chameleons, adapting to every situation, but never truly being ourselves. So how can we start caring less about people's opinions? The first step is to get clear on our own values and beliefs. What really matters to us? What do we stand for? When we have a strong sense of self, it becomes easier to weather the storms of external criticism. Another helpful strategy is to reframe our perspective. When someone says something negative about us, instead of taking it personally, we can choose to see it as a reflection of their own issues. Maybe they're having a bad day, or maybe they're projecting their own insecurities onto us. By detaching ourselves from their words, we can maintain our inner peace and focus on what truly matters. But what about when we're the ones dishing out the negativity? Have you ever caught yourself gossiping or speaking badly about someone else? As tempting as it might be to bond over shared criticism, the Stoics had a different approach. They believed in the power of honesty and integrity, even when it's uncomfortable. So, how can we start embracing honesty in our own lives? Stay tuned to find out. 2. Embrace honesty. Picture this. You're at a dinner party and the conversation turns to a controversial topic. You have a strong opinion, but it goes against what everyone else is saying. Do you speak up and risk rocking the boat? Or do you keep quiet and go along with the crowd? This is the kind of situation where the Stoic philosophy of honesty comes into play. The Stoics believed that integrity and truthfulness were essential virtues, even when they were uncomfortable or unpopular. As Epictetus once said, "The first and greatest punishment of the sinner is the conscience of sin." In other words, when we're dishonest or inauthentic, we pay the price in our own peace of mind. We might avoid conflict in the moment, but we're left with a nagging sense of guilt or unease. And over time, this can erode our self-respect and relationships. But let's be real, honesty isn't always easy. It can be scary to speak our truth, especially when we're afraid of being judged or rejected. So, how can we start embracing honesty in a way that feels authentic and respectful? One key is to practice what I call radical honesty with tact. This means being truthful, but also mindful of how our words impact others. We can express our opinions and feelings without being hurtful or aggressive. It's about finding that sweet spot between candor and kindness. Another helpful strategy is to reframe honesty as an act of courage. When we speak up, even when it's hard, we're showing up as our authentic selves. We're demonstrating that our integrity matters more than fitting in or being liked. And that takes guts. Of course, embracing honesty doesn't mean we have to share every thought or feeling that crosses our minds. There's a difference between being truthful and being tactless. The key is to be intentional about when and how we express ourselves, and to do so with empathy and respect for others. So, the next time you find yourself in a situation where honesty feels risky, remember the words of Epictetus. The temporary discomfort of speaking your truth is nothing compared to the long-term pain of living a lie. By embracing honesty, you're not only staying true to yourself, but you're also building a foundation of trust and respect in your relationships. But what about when honesty isn't the issue, but rather how we interpret others' words and actions? Have you ever found yourself taking things personally, even when they might not be about you at all? In the next section, we'll explore the Stoic philosophy of avoiding taking things personally and how it can transform your relationships and inner peace. Get ready for some mind-blowing insights. 3. Avoid taking things personally. We've all been there. You're having a rough day, and then someone says or does something that feels like a personal attack. Maybe your boss criticizes your work, or your partner snaps at you over something small. When we take things personally, we're assuming that the other person's behavior is a direct reflection of our worth or value. But in reality, their actions are often more about their own struggles, insecurities, or circumstances. Think about it. When you're stressed out or having a bad day, do you always communicate in the most thoughtful or kind way? Probably not. And the same is true for everyone else. We're all human, and we all have our moments of weakness or frustration. So, how can we start avoiding taking things personally? The first step is to pause and question our initial reaction. When someone says or does something that triggers us, instead of immediately jumping to conclusions, we can take a step back and ask ourselves, is this really about me, Or could there be something else going on? Another helpful strategy is to practice empathy and compassion. When we try to put ourselves in the other person's shoes and understand their perspective, it becomes easier to detach from our own ego and see the situation more objectively. Maybe your boss is under a lot of pressure from higher-ups, or maybe your partner is dealing with stress at work. By considering these factors, we can respond with more patience and understanding. Of course, this doesn't mean we have to tolerate abuse or mistreatment. There's a difference between not taking things personally and being a doormat. The key is to set healthy boundaries while also maintaining a sense of perspective and compassion. So, the next time you find yourself taking something personally, remember the words of Epictetus. You have the power to choose your own thoughts and reactions, no matter what anyone else says or does. By avoiding taking things personally, you're not only protecting your own peace of mind, but you're also opening the door for more authentic and compassionate connections with others. Speaking of compassion, have you ever found yourself getting impatient or frustrated with others, especially when things aren't going your way? In the next section, we'll explore how the Stoics cultivated patience and how it can transform your relationships and overall well-being. Trust me, this is a game changer. 4. Cultivate patience. Picture this. You're stuck in traffic, already running late for an important meeting. The cars are crawling, and you can feel your blood pressure rising with every passing minute. Or maybe you're trying to explain something to a coworker for the third time, and they just don't seem to get it. Your patience is wearing thin, and you're about to snap. We've all been in situations like these, where our patience is tested and we just want to scream. But what if I told you that patience is a skill that can be cultivated and strengthened, just like a muscle? This is where the Stoics come in, particularly the teachings of Marcus Aurelius. In his famous work, Meditations, Aurelius writes, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." In other words, we can't always control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond to it. And one of the most powerful responses is patience. But let's be real, patience is hard. It goes against our natural instincts to want things to happen quickly and smoothly. So, how can we start cultivating more patience in our daily lives? One helpful strategy is to reframe the situation. Instead of getting frustrated by delays or setbacks, we can choose to see them as opportunities. Maybe being stuck in traffic gives you a chance to listen to a podcast or practice some deep breathing. Or maybe your co-workers' questions are actually helping you clarify your own thoughts and communication style. Another key is to practice mindfulness and present moment awareness. When we're fully engaged in the here and now, it becomes easier to let go of our impatience and just be with what is. We can notice our thoughts and feelings without getting caught up in them and respond with more calmness and clarity. Of course, cultivating patience takes practice. It's not something that happens overnight, but the more we consciously choose to respond with patience, the more it becomes a habit and a way of being. And the benefits are tremendous, not only for our own peace of mind, but also for our relationships and overall quality of life. So, the next time you find yourself getting impatient, remember the words of Marcus Aurelius. You have the power to choose your response, no matter what life throws your way. By cultivating patience, you're not only building your own resilience and strength, but you're also setting an example for others to follow. Speaking of setting an example, have you ever noticed how some people just seem to radiate a sense of calm and wisdom, no matter what's going on around them? In the next section, we'll explore how the Stoics believed in leading by example and how it can transform not only your own life, but also the lives of those around you. Get ready to be inspired. 5. Lead by example. Think about someone you admire and look up to. Maybe it's a mentor, a family member, or a public figure. What is it about them that inspires you? Chances are it's not just what they say, but also how they live their life. They embody the qualities and values that you aspire to, and their actions speak louder than their words. This is the essence of leading by example, a core tenet of Stoic philosophy. As Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, once said, "Well-being is attained by little and little, and nevertheless is no little thing itself." In other words, it's the small daily choices we make that add up to a life well lived. But what does it actually mean to lead by example? It's not about being perfect or never making mistakes. Rather, it's about consistently striving to live in alignment with your values and principles, even when it's difficult or uncomfortable. Think about a historical figure like Mahatma Gandhi, who famously led by example in his non-violent resistance against British rule in India. He didn't just preach about the importance of peace and justice. He embodied those values in every aspect of his life, from his simple clothing to his acts of civil disobedience. His example inspired millions of people around the world to stand up for their beliefs and work towards a more just and compassionate society. But you don't have to be a world-renowned leader to lead by example. Every one of us has the power to inspire and influence others simply by living with integrity and purpose. It could be as small as showing up to work with a positive attitude, even when you're having a tough day, or it could be as big as standing up against injustice or discrimination, even when it's unpopular. The key is to start small and focus on progress, not perfection. As Zeno reminds us, well-being is attained little by little. We can start by identifying our core values and principles, and then looking for opportunities to put them into practice in our daily lives. Another helpful strategy is to surround ourselves with people who embody the qualities we aspire to. As the saying goes, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. By seeking out mentors, friends, and colleagues who inspire and challenge us to be our best selves, we can accelerate our own growth and development. So, the next time you find yourself wondering how you can make a difference in the world, remember the power of leading by example. By consistently striving to live with integrity and purpose, you're not only improving your own life, but also inspiring others to do the same. And that, my friends, is how we change the world, one small action at a time. But what about when the world around us seems to be filled with negativity and toxicity? How can we stay true to our values and lead by example when it feels like everyone else is dragging us down? In the next section, we'll explore the Stoic philosophy of tuning out negativity and how it can help us stay focused and resilient in the face of adversity. Trust me, this is a skill you won't want to miss. 6. Tune out negativity. Have you ever found yourself scrolling through social media only to be bombarded with negative comments, toxic news stories, and general pessimism? It's enough to make even the most optimistic person feel discouraged and drained. But what if I told you that you have the power to tune out that negativity and focus on what truly matters? This is where the Stoics come in, particularly the teachings of Marcus Aurelius. In his famous work, Meditations, he writes, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." In other words, we have the ability to choose what we allow into our minds and what we focus on, and that choice can make all the difference in our overall well-being. But let's be real, tuning out negativity is easier said than done. We're constantly exposed to it, whether it's through the media, our social circles, or even our own self-talk. So, how can we start to filter out the noise and focus on the positive? One helpful strategy is to be mindful of what we consume. Just like we're careful about what we put into our bodies, we need to be intentional about what we allow into our minds. That might mean unfollowing toxic people on social media, limiting our exposure to negative news stories, or seeking out uplifting and inspiring content instead. Another key is to practice gratitude and focus on the good. Even in the darkest of times, there are always things to be thankful for, whether it's a supportive friend, a beautiful sunset, or simply the gift of another day. By actively looking for the positive and expressing gratitude for what we have, we can shift our mindset and outlook on life. Of course, tuning out negativity doesn't mean ignoring reality or pretending that everything is perfect. There will always be challenges and difficulties in life, and it's important to acknowledge and deal with them. But by focusing on what we can control and maintaining a sense of perspective, we can navigate those challenges with greater resilience and grace. The Stoics also emphasized the importance of surrounding ourselves with positive influences. As Epictetus once said, "The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best." By seeking out friends, mentors, and communities that support and inspire us, we can create a positive feedback loop that helps us stay focused and motivated. So the next time you find yourself getting dragged down by negativity, remember the words of Marcus Aurelius. You have the power to choose your thoughts and focus, no matter what's going on around you. By tuning out the noise and focusing on the good, you're not only improving your own well-being, but also setting an example for others to follow. Speaking of setting an example, have you ever noticed how some people just seem to radiate a sense of love and compassion, no matter who they're interacting with? In the next section, we'll explore the Stoic philosophy of embracing love in action and how it can transform not only your relationships, but also the world around you. Get ready to have your heart opened wide. 7. Embrace love in action. When you think of love, what comes to mind? Maybe it's the butterflies in your stomach when you see your crush, or the warm feeling of being surrounded by family and friends. But what if I told you that love is so much more than just a feeling? According to the Stoics, love is an action, a way of being in the world that has the power to transform not only our own lives, but also the lives of those around us. As Seneca, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, once said, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for a kindness." In other words, every interaction we have with another person is a chance to show love and compassion, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant. But what does it actually mean to embrace love in action? It's about more than just saying "I love you" or buying gifts for your loved ones. It's about consistently showing up with an open heart and a willingness to serve others, even when it's difficult or uncomfortable. Think about a time when someone showed you an act of kindness, no matter how small. Maybe it was a stranger who held the door open for you when your hands were full, or a friend who listened to you vent about a tough day at work. Those small acts of love and compassion can make all the difference in our day-to-day lives, and they have a ripple effect that extends far beyond the moment. But embracing love in action isn't just about what we do for others. It's also about how we treat ourselves. The Stoics believed that we have a duty to take care of ourselves, not just physically, but also mentally and emotionally. That means practicing self-compassion, setting healthy boundaries, and prioritizing our own well-being so that we can show up as our best selves for others. One helpful strategy for embracing love in action is to start small. We don't have to make grand gestures or change the world overnight. Instead, we can look for opportunities to show kindness and compassion in our daily lives, whether it's smiling at a stranger on the street or offering to help a co-worker with a project. Another key is to practice empathy and put ourselves in others' shoes. When we take the time to understand someone else's perspective and experience, it becomes easier to respond with love and compassion, even in difficult situations. As Marcus Aurelius once said, Whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question: what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize? Of course, embracing love in action isn't always easy. There will be times when we're tired, stressed, or just don't feel like being kind. But by making it a daily practice and surrounding ourselves with others who share our values, we can cultivate a love that is resilient, authentic, and transformative. So, the next time you find yourself in an interaction with another person, remember the words of Seneca. Every moment is an opportunity for kindness, no matter how small. By embracing love in action, we not only enrich our own lives, but also create a ripple effect of compassion that extends far beyond ourselves. But what about when we find ourselves getting caught up in comparison and competition, either with others or with some idealized version of ourselves? In the next section, we'll explore the Stoic philosophy of focusing on your own path and how it can help us find true fulfillment and purpose. 8. Focus on your own path. In our fast-paced, social media-driven world, it's easy to get caught up in comparing ourselves to others. We see our friends and colleagues achieving milestones, getting promotions, and living what seems like the perfect life, and we start to question our own worth and progress. But what if I told you that this comparison game is not only futile, but also detrimental to our own growth and happiness? The Stoics understood this well, and they emphasized the importance of focusing on our own path, rather than getting distracted by what others are doing. As Seneca once said, "Every man is the architect of his own fortune." In other words, we are ultimately responsible for creating our own lives and destinies, regardless of what anyone else is doing. But let's be real, it's not always easy to stay focused on our own path, especially when it feels like everyone else is moving faster or achieving more. So how can we start to shift our mindset and stay true to ourselves? One helpful strategy is to define our own metrics for success. Rather than comparing ourselves to others or some external standard, we can ask ourselves what truly matters to us and what kind of life we want to create. Maybe it's not about having the biggest house or the most impressive job title, but rather about cultivating meaningful relationships, pursuing our passions, and making a positive impact in the world. Another key is to practice gratitude and celebrate our own progress, no matter how small. Instead of beating ourselves up for not being further along, we can take a moment to acknowledge how far we've come and the lessons we've learned along the way. As Seneca reminds us, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more. That is poor. The Stoics also emphasized the importance of staying present and focusing on what we can control. We can't change the past or predict the future, but we can choose how we show up in the present moment and how we respond to the challenges and opportunities that come our way. By staying grounded in the here and now, we can avoid getting caught up in comparisons and distractions and stay true to our own path. Of course, focusing on our own path doesn't mean we have to go it alone. The Stoics believed in the power of community and surrounding ourselves with people who support and inspire us. By seeking out mentors, friends, and colleagues who share our values and encourage us to be our best selves, we can stay motivated and accountable on our own unique journey. So the next time you find yourself getting caught up in comparison or self-doubt, remember the words of Seneca. You are the architect of your own fortune, and your path is uniquely yours. By focusing on what truly matters to you and celebrating your own progress, you can create a life that is authentic, fulfilling, and truly your own. We've covered a lot of ground today, from caring less about others' opinions to focusing on our own path. But at the heart of all these Stoic teachings is a simple yet profound truth. We have the power to choose how we show up in the world, no matter what life throws our way. Whether we're facing difficult people, challenging circumstances, or our own inner demons, we can always choose to respond with patience, compassion, and wisdom. We can tune out the noise and negativity and focus on what truly matters. We can embrace love in action and be a force for good in the world. And we can stay true to ourselves and our own unique path, even when it feels like everyone else is moving in a different direction. Of course, this is easier said than done. It takes practice, patience, and a willingness to step outside our comfort zone. But the rewards are immeasurable, not just for ourselves, but for everyone around us. So as we close out this exploration of Stoic wisdom, I invite you to take a moment to reflect on what you've learned and how you can start to apply it in your own life. Maybe it's as simple as pausing before reacting to a difficult situation, or taking a few minutes each day to practice gratitude. Maybe it's reaching out to someone who has made a difference in your life and expressing your appreciation. Or maybe it's taking a bold step towards a dream or goal that you've been putting off. Whatever it is, know that you have the power to create a life that is authentic, fulfilling, and truly your own. And know that you're not alone on this journey. You have a community of fellow seekers and Stoic practitioners who are here to support and inspire you along the way. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." So, my friends, let us go forth with that strength and wisdom and create a world that is more compassionate, more resilient, and more beautiful than we ever thought possible. Thank you for joining me on this journey today. Until next time, keep shining your light and embracing the art of living wisely.